What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be spotlighting the Iron Valiant Paradox Pokemon, and it's an interesting one, right? It's actually one of my favorites, just because the design is really cool, and what's interesting about the Iron Valiant is that its typing is actually really nice into the meta, right? With Fairy and Fighting, the only problem here with Iron Valiant that most see is like it's a mixed attacker, right? With 130 attack stat and a 120 special attack, and you know, in things like this you always want to like consider, oh man, I wish I had like 50 of these attack stats and just put in special attacks, so this way I can designate all special attacks, right? But that's not the case with Iron Valiant, right? You can pretty much have to be forced almost to do a mixed attack set. Now I could be proven wrong eventually, but as far as like a mixed attacker, it's actually doing really well. And it did just get second place in the recent Duranz tour, right? From Sanaito's team. No, I'm sorry, Sanaito's team, right? Where if you look at this team list here, okay, they have pretty much every single kind of Cloverbells team you might find, right? With the Dragon Fairy, Steel, Fire, Water, Grass core, with Garchomp, Amoonguss, Rotom, and then there's the Kingambit, there's the Ceruledge, right? And then the Fairy typing is fulfilled by the Iron Valiant, right? So it's a really super cool team, really nice balanced team. It's right up our alley, where it's just like a very standard team that you might find on this channel. And that's why I'm like looking at this along with these sets. So great job for second place in this tour. And it was a pretty decently sized tour, right? It wasn't like 100, 200 plus person tournament. It was about 71 people. So that's not too bad. And then, 8 and 3 is actually really, really nice score, I should say. But now let's look at why Iron Valiant might be like super good into the meta, right? So you might considering like, why use this thing if it's like a mixed attacker? I can't really designate one attack stat. So then what is the reasoning why I might even consider Iron Valiant? So let's take a look. Okay, the main reason why like Iron Valiant is actually really nice is just because of how much it can hit in the meta with its 2 coverage moves, right? So if I were to just remove Iron Valiant here for a second, let me put the big 4 up here. Roaring Moon, what's it gonna call it? Iron Hands, all right, Iron Bundle, okay, and then Flutter Mane, right? Let me just put all of these up here. Okay, if you consider the Fairy Fighting typing, pretty much Iron Valiant hits all of these, right? With the exception of Flutter Mane, but there's a move that you can put that can hit the Flutter Mane as well. But with Roaring Moon, again, this thing just drops to close combat. It drops to a Moonblast, right? So you got that covered for you, right? And then over here in the Iron Hands, again, the fighting typing, you just drop to a Moonblast. Your special defense is not so great. Physically, you're pretty good, but again, we're not clicking close combat into this, right? Unless this is like Terra Steel with like Heavy Slam, but look at this special defense. Like Moonblast pretty much just takes it out most times. Now, granted, these things can run the Assault Vest, which is like a very common item on it, but you can EV your Iron Valiant, where it's pretty much just like a 2-shot. So there's that. Iron Bundle, of course, another one of those Pokemon where most times you'll see like a Focus Sash on this thing. So it can take 2 hits, but ideally this just drops to close combat as well, right? Now the Flutter Mane, okay, now it's a Ghost Fairy, so you can't really click a fighting move into this, and your Moonblast isn't gonna, like, it's gonna chunk it, it's not gonna kill it, because, base 135 special defense is actually really good. But what you can do on the Iron Valiant, and let me put it back here, is besides your 2 stat moves of Close Combat and Moonblast, all right, now he had Icy Wind, which is a pretty cool tech move, for speed control. But you could either go for Shadow Claw, the ghost move, or Shadow Sneak, okay? And I believe Sanaito's spread was basically this kind of set, where it was a naive set. So you're going for the speed, which is pretty reasonable. All right, let me just go here. Where are you? Yeah, naive, so speed nature. And then I believe he had 60 EVs in the attack stat, and then 196 in special attack, right? And then this kind of spread is able to do a lot into all of these, and you have a lot of boost in your special attack, right? So if I go into the damage calculator, all right, where I already put in his spread, and then if I just put in like Iron Hands here, look how much Moonblast does here. So I mean, he has the Assault Vest, so that's always an interesting thing. But again, even with like some bulk, the Moonblast is pretty much a 2-shot on the Iron Hands. And remember, on this set, he had like Focus Sash, so you're able to take an attack. And the reasoning with Focus Sash is because you're going with the naive nature, you're more vulnerable to getting like O-Code. But if you have a Sash, you can pretty much get off another attack, right? So Iron Hands can get 2-shot by Moonblast, you outspeed it. And then, of course, Roaring Moon, right? If I just put in Roaring Moonset over here, you know, without any bulk, of course, this just drops to Moonblast in close combat. You can see the numbers, right? If I do this, is this a little bit more clear? Yeah, somewhat. But then if I just minimize it, then if I go into you know, what's it called, Iron Bundle, of course, that's another one that just gets smashed by close combat, even with a little bit of bulk. It's not going to matter. Even like Moonblast has a chance to KO this thing. And then if you go to Flutter Mane, right, the interesting thing here with Flutter Mane, no bulk, of course. Most of them are going to be like all special attack and all speed. The Shadow Claw has a chance to pick up the KO, but not only that, the Sneak passes the 50% threshold, so you are able to pretty much get a 2-shot KO on this thing, assuming they have no bulk. So that's the advantage of Shadow Sneak here. I'm also wondering, like, if you, even with like a Focus Sash set, you might even consider stuff like Thunder Wave, just for like extra speed control. It also has other moves like Fire Punch, which is actually interesting, and even like Thunder Punch, you know, so this way, like for the Roaring Moons that go for like the Terra Flying with Acrobatics, you're still able to hit them a little bit more effectively, right? Because the idea here with Acrobatics, with Terra Flying, they're able to counter opposing Iron Hands that also want to go for like close combat. And then naturally, you know, you just resist the fighting move and then you're able to KO right back with the Acrobatics. But because of that, you're also naturally able to do the same thing against the Iron Valiant, right? So in exchange, right, you might consider that and just go for like maybe an Ice Punch or, you know, a Thunder Punch here just to like consider it, right? But I think the Ghost move is actually really cool. Just for like a little bit more coverage, you'll hit Goldango as well, along with the Flutter Mane, right? So if I were to put in Goldango here, just like a blank set, you know, just no bulk, the Shadow Claw can do like a decent amount of damage, and so can Shadow Sneak. And if for some reason, you know, you have the Ghost Terror, you're able to do even more damage as well, right? So it's a pretty cool team. I mean, a pretty cool mod into like a lot of the meta stuff. And then if you also like consider, like if I just remove some of this stuff, a couple of other Pokemon that are also like relatively prevalent in the meta, if you consider like Meowscarada, for example, and then even King Gambit, these Pokemon also just drop to the fighting move or the fairy move, right? Meowscarada drops to either of them, and then King Gambit, same thing, close combat slash, you know, it just drops, right? And I know it's physically bulky, but like you have a sash, so you're able to at least, you know, take one kind of hit and survive. But you know, you have outs against these two, so you're doing something, right? And then on a team like this, right, where you have like a lot of coverage, like I think it does really well with Ceruledge, right? Because with the Iron Valiant being weak to steel, you have the Ceruledge to cover for that, you know, with your fire type damage, and then you're also weak to like fairy stuff as well, you know, your own typing. The Ceruledge and the King Gambit can also do something there as well, so it makes a lot of sense. And then, you know, just like if you want to intimidate the Iron Valiant, so you always have like a Moonblast, like a special attack to click, which is really nice, so you can deter the Intimidates that's running around. And then if you like position yourself where like you have a King Gambit on the field, they can't really intimidate you, because then the King Gambit gets like a nice little boost, and then you're just going for like hard hitting sucker punches, right? So that's the idea here, you know, with Iron Valiant. I feel like it's a really cool bond to explore, and I think it does really well on like balanced teams like this, right? So, you know, I think, you know, in these kinds of tours, it's really cool to experiment with stuff like Iron Valiant, right? Because, you know, most people don't expect it, and it does a lot into a lot of the popular threats, right? So I would expect at least a little bit more Iron Valiant, and this was a cool squad to actually do really well with it, right? So shoutouts to Sanaito for doing really well. I understand like he's going to try and retweak this stuff, but if you want to try this out, you know, in like another kind of tour, you know, there's the rental, so feel free to try it out yourself. But I think it's a really cool mod and a really cool squad. And I wanted to spotlight it because I think it has a lot of potential. It just needs like the right kind of sets and the right kind of team, right? Because it's not as good as the Ubers, all right, with the, you know, Roaring Moon Flutter Mane stuff, but I think it has a place and a niche on the right kind of team, right? So I probably wouldn't put it in the A tier. I probably would put it in like a low B. You know, I think it's better than some of the other stuff like Iron Thorns. You know, this thing. Yeah, like I think it's way better than something like this. I think this is like one of the worst ones. So yeah, cool to see Iron Valiant do really well in one of these tours. So just a really quick spotlight video. So yeah, let me know what you think of Iron Valiant, and if you want to consider trying it out yourself. If you got your own set or your own move set for it, you know, let me know in the comments. And again, if you're interested in coaching with me for Series 2, we've already been starting that up. So If you want to team build with me for Series 2, take a look at the video description or in the comment section, or just click the join button in the channel. Tier 3 sub will let you do that, where we sit down in a Discord call, we hash out EV spreads and whatnot, and we build you a squad. Or if you got a squad of your own and you just want me to fix it up and look at it for a bit, that's a tier 2 sub to the channel. So again, pretty much the same location, video description or in the comments, or click the join button in the channel. All right, that's it for now, guys. Just want to spotlight Iron Valiant and give you some ideas as to what you want to try it for. But we'll be back in a video next time. Peace out and have a good one.